Hey, good evening, and welcome back to the Six Rings Kane Show. We are now on every Wednesday. In case anybody who's listening or watching live is, wondering why we're on Wednesdays, we're actually going to be on now every Wednesday night at 7:30. As part of the Five Rings Sports YouTube channel, the YouTube network as well on the YouTube network channel on YouTube, of course, with all the other fellas over there. Part of the Five Rings Canes podcast, and so much more. Joined by Danny Gillette, as always. Paul has the night off today. We gave him the night off. But we are also joined by a special guest who I love to have on the show all the time. As knowledgeable and as expert, I don't even know if that's a word, as expertise as possible when it comes to Miami Hurricanes. That was terrible, but whatever. Who gives a crap? Miami Hurricanes football, 24/7 sports. Hurricanes recruiting guru over there, Gabby Arrudia. Thanks for joining us on the show today, my man. Thank you.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
I like the new mic, man. Yeah, it's sweet, bro.
The blue snowball.
That's the blue snowball, yeah, man.
Yeah, bro. This was a gift from my fiance, soon to be wife, which is crazy. It was like a Christmas gift or a birthday gift or something like that. But yeah, man, super pumped.
Looks good, man. Looks good. We still got a lot to go over. I know we finally myself and a couple other people, we finally met Gabby in person at Paradise Camp about 3 weeks ago, and that was fun. Had a good time there. We spoke a lot about that. Danny, before we get it going with Gabby, so many things going on in college football right now. The NIL is still around. I know it's kind of old news at this point. But still a lot to talk about when it comes to that. Still a lot to talk about when it comes to Miami Hurricanes recruiting, especially now. I think Gabby will probably mention that things are going to start to heat up with a lot of prospects and a lot of recruits out there. It was a little slower, a little more quiet before, and I know a lot of fans were getting worried, but fear not. I think Hurricanes have a plan, and so we're excited about that. Danny, what kind of when we talk to Gabby now, because this is going to be the most exciting thing right here, right? When we talk to Gabby now, what do you want to hear when Gabby speaks about recruiting, Danny? I know you. I know you're excited to hear something. What do you want to hear?
I just want to hear that Miami's in the running for some more prospects. They've gotten some really good momentum over the past couple of days. Right after we ended the show on last Thursday, basically, they got a commitment from Chris Graves Jr., the corner. That was a position of need for Miami, and that's a position that they have kind of not struggled to recruit, but there have been some misses in the past couple of years. So I was very happy to see that, and I just want to see more bodies come in. I think as these camps end and as players start to take more visits, we'll see that, but Miami was really bolstered, I think, by that commitment on Friday, and it gives them a nice addition to their secondary. You've heard me talk about all the time how college football is more of a passing game. Well, you're going to need corners, and you're going to need athletes who can keep up with the fast wide receivers. And Miami got one on Friday, and I'm just ready to see more commitments. I'm ready to see them keep rolling in.
Yeah, I think we're pretty excited about what we're hearing. It looks like this might be one of the best defensive back classes as well. Well, cornerback position classes that Miami's had in a long time. And Gabby, I kind of want to turn it over to you and talk a little bit about that first, since we did just get a commitment from Chris Graves and over at Bishop Verot High School, who happens to be, I believe, he's related to Malik Curtis also, which is kind of cool. But talk to me a little bit about, before we get into anything else, talk to me a little bit about that Chris Graves commitment and what that means for the Canes secondary and just all around for their recruiting class.
Yeah, no, I mean, Chris Graves is a big addition. I'm a big fan of what he's been able to do, of what he's put on tape on both sides of the ball. He played a lot of offense as a junior. I think his future is absolutely at cornerback. I got to see him at his spring game over in Fort Myers, and he was just kind of like bullying people at the line of scrimmage. He's definitely not afraid to get physical. Has the speed, the verified speed that you sort of want. I think he went like 11 flat in the 100-meter, which is it's just surpasses the elite standard time. So definitely got the wheels. Again, he has the ball skills, just kind of transitioning from wide receiver to cornerback. That's sort of a route that you see a lot of corners take as converted wide receivers. So kind of checks that box. Again, really long arms, kind of just fits the mold of what you want a cornerback. And then something a lot of people don't realize. This kid is he's a 16-year-old rising senior.
Yep.
This kid is going to be 17 years old when he enrolls at Miami. Like, he's probably going to be a summer enrollee the same way Malik Curtis will, and he's going to be 17 years old when he gets to Miami. Like, this kid still has a ton of room for development. This kid still has a bunch of room to grow. As a prospect, and it's just really, really intriguing, and I think the ceiling is pretty high, man. I really think that like Chris Graves is quietly a very, very strong commitment for Miami.
I think a lot of, I think what happened previously was a lot of people were down about, missing out on Jacoby Spells and a couple other guys. But I think, first of all, this kind of cancels that out, if you ask me. I think that Chris Graves is a little bit better or has the potential to be a better cornerback than Jacoby Spells. I know we all like Jacoby Spells, and I think he's a great player. But I'm really excited about that. I'm also excited about some of the other names that we're still hearing, even some of the guys that are committed to other places like a Jaheim Singletary and some of the other dudes that are still out there. Talk to me a little bit about what we might expect from the cornerback position still, as far as some of the guys that are still out there being recruited by Miami, or maybe some guys that we haven't even heard of, and some of the under the radar kids like the Henderson Twins and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, just touch on a couple of those names that you mentioned. I mean, Jaheim Singletary is a guy that, I think Miami's just going to continue to battle it out for. I don't think anyone in Coral Gables at this point expects Jaheim Singletary in the class, but, Miami has a good season. They're expecting to have a strong fall, this coming season, the big 2021 season. If, let's say, they surpass expectations, let's say they win 10, 11 games and they feel like, hey, you know what, like we're going to continue to go after this guy. Who really knows what happens? But I feel like that's unlikely at this point. You mentioned the Henderson twins. I mean, Jakari Henderson is a cornerback. He's just an athletic freak. I tell everyone to just turn on like his highlight tape, his basketball tape. I mean, just freaky dunks, honestly, just so much bounce, so much, honestly, just has a really, really high ceiling just in terms of just what he already can do athletically. Not a lot of guys in this cornerback class can sort of, replicate that. So I think that makes him super intriguing. Traequan Figgins, kid, he just transferred to Thompson, Alabama. I mean, I think that, Miami's sitting in a pretty good spot with him, another top 100 talent, just like Kamari Rogers is. So, I think that's another guy that Miami fans should be sort of maybe circling as a guy that, maybe not in the class, but a guy that Miami's definitely trending in the right direction for. And so, yeah, I mean, that's basically the state of the cornerback room right now. It's in a very, very good spot. Kamari Rogers and Chris Graves alone are a fantastic cornerback class. I mean, I think, huge props to DeMarcus Van Dyke for, what he's been able to do in his first year at Miami as an on-field coach. I mean, he's kind of done it behind the scenes, and now he's sort of, been able to do it as as a guy that could actually be a primary recruiter. And, I think the proof's in the pudding right now of what he can do on the trail.
It's pretty exciting, man, and people don't realize how much of an impact DeMarcus Van Dyke has had on recruiting a lot of these big time guys. Obviously, T-Rob and the rest of the team, the rest of the staff is doing a hell of a job at recruiting some of these guys. So we're really excited to see what happens down the road now with early signing period coming up. Not soon, but there's still a couple of months away. But all these visits that are going to come up as well. I kind of want to turn our direction. I think that actually, Danny, before I get it going, Danny's got a question. So go ahead, Danny.
Yeah, Gabby, I had heard the name Devon Jackson, the linebacker from Omaha.
Yeah.
Burke. I had heard Miami.
That's what I was gonna get to, Danny. Jesus, man, you can't even.
But I read something today where he really liked his visit to Arizona, and they're very much in play. And I had also heard that Miami had kind of moved away from him. Can you give us any more updates on that?
Yeah, I actually talked to Devon yesterday. I mean, the situation with Devon Jackson, I mean, basically, Arizona State was basically at the forefront of his picture of just like what he thought he was going to do even before he made the official visit to Miami and all that stuff. So, I think once he officially visited Miami, I think he kind of went back home and kind of just started rethinking everything. He was kind of set to make a commitment coming right off that official visit. And, if everything went the way he thought it was going to go, he probably would be committed to Arizona State right now. But I do think Miami gave him something to think about. I know Oklahoma's in the picture now. He plans to give them an official in the fall. So, a couple other schools starting to kind of involve themselves for Devon Jackson. I think Miami's still in the picture. He told me he's planning to talk with Jonathan Packey this week. So people are saying that, Miami's been off of him. People got to realize that this is July. This is when coaches go on vacation. They're people too. And, a lot of these guys are just kind of taking a step back, after an extremely busy June to sort of just kind of relax, regather themselves. There's a week at the end of July where, things open back up, and then they have to start preparing for fall camp too. So, there's a time coaches go on vacation and sort of take care of themselves and, kind of get ready for the grind that's about to come up too. So,
Right.
I don't think Miami's cooled off of him. I think Miami's still very much involved in the recruitment, but I do know he's probably going to take some more time to kind of see how everything goes.
Yeah, and again, that plays into the emotion that a lot of these fans show when they hear a little something, they kind of run with it. So I think we need to kind of just sit back and wait for a couple of these things to happen. But I want to stay on the topic of linebackers, right? Because at the end of the day, we all know that's been one of the biggest misses, right? It's been more missed than hit when it comes to recruiting, especially with Manny Diaz being strong on that side of football, and especially at that position. What do you think have been some of the issues with recruiting linebackers in the past? And we're not hearing a lot of names out there. We're hearing some, Justin Medlock and Devon Jackson and obviously Tolan, who just committed elsewhere, and of course I think the biggest name is Wesley Basaint. Is there some other names or some other guys that maybe we should be looking at or kind of keeping an eye on that might pop up on the Miami Hurricanes radar? And what do you think about the linebacker position as a whole now in Miami?
Yeah, I'm not super certain about a bunch of other names that are sort of floating around. I know those are the names that I've heard a lot of. There's always time for someone to kind of come back up. They're always going to be evaluating guys and seeing what's going on. But Wesley Basaint's definitely probably at the top of the list right now. Devon Jackson, another guy that's sort of in there. So there's always a few names that are sort of floating around. I mean, they brought in Fort Myers. I think he goes to Dunbar. Avion Rice, they brought him in for a workout, in June. Kobe McLeod, who's the younger brother of Ray McLeod, who plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He goes to Tampa Gaithier, I think. And, he's another guy that's been on Miami's campus before. So there is a few names sort of floating around. I'm not really sure what to make of all that at this point, but I think that's still to be determined. And, in terms of just like the linebacker position as a whole, I think it's obvious that, that's a unit that, in general, like on the roster right now from a recruiting standpoint, I think that's a position where Miami definitely needs to maybe take a step up. And you kind of hope with Manny Diaz sort of being involved with the defense now that, he can personally take care of that. I liked what I saw out of a few guys, just being able to kind of see them in person, at Paradise Camp, throughout the month of June, just at all the different camps that they had at the school, basically every Wednesday and Sunday I was there. A lot of the players would sort of come out and sort of, be around. So, I think that, let's say a Corey Flagg, I really like how Avery Huff looks right now. I think there is certain pieces there, obviously a lot of guys coming back, a lot of guys that are going to be able to make an impact, that have already sort of made an impact, to sort of take that next step. I do think it's time for them to take that next step, because if they don't, I feel like that's going to hold the defense back some. But I feel like if some of those guys maybe really are able to take that, again, just that leap in their development, I do think that this could be a pretty special Miami Hurricanes defense, one that we've been accustomed to sort of seeing from Manny Diaz in the past. And, with him at the forefront now, I think that maybe this is just what the unit needs as a whole, as a defense.
You bring up a great point there, Gabby, and the key word for me was the development. I think some of these kids are talented, right? I think the Tyreek Austin Caves and Avery Huffs and the Sam Brooks, these kids are talented, right? They need to develop into the Miami Hurricane linebacker. And I know that we're hearing a lot also that a lot of these bigger safeties, right? That position is kind of changing, especially at Miami. They want those bigger safeties that they can maybe convert into linebackers. Maybe could you see a kid like a James Williams at the end of the day, coming down in the box and playing linebacker as opposed to safety? I mean, we saw him at Paradise Camp, and he's all of 6'5", and he's all of 220 pounds that he is right now. Yeah. He's a big kid. Is that a kind of kid that Miami might start recruiting guys like that and then bring them down and play linebacker, you think?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to try to take those freak athletes all day. I mean, you don't just see James Williams is walking around. So, every school in the country is looking for guys that look like that. But so I think it's a huge deal that Miami was able to land one like James Williams. And you think about a Chase Smith too. A guy that, maybe doesn't fit the Ishmael Aristide mold of what the striker position maybe was thought of by fans prior to Aristide sort of coming on. He's looking for more true nickel type backs, maybe like 6'1" range, like 205 to 200 and like maybe 10 pounds guys that, that can truly cover. This is Danny said at the beginning of the show, like this is a passing game. You got to be able to cover these guys. And, Chase Smith obviously is long and all that stuff, but can he cover a slot guy? I mean, who knows? I think, recruiting those tall, big, long guys would help. It could be maybe on the weak side. James Williams is just, again, I mean, he's been described as a unicorn of a prospect. He is that. Can he come down and play linebacker? Yeah, he could probably do a lot of different things. You're not going to find those guys all that often. So, you can't really rely on, signing the 6'4", 225 pounders. So I think you just got to find guys that are just going to be able to move well in space, that are going to be able to do a lot of things, defend the run, be able to stick with tight ends, guys that run a little bit faster than them, maybe a little bit longer, all those types of things. So, it's an interesting dynamic to what linebacker sort of is at Miami right now, and, where it sort of is on the roster right now and how it's sort of being viewed moving forward through recruiting.
Awesome. Yeah. I have a question that I've actually been very curious about, because I seem to get lost in all the names and remembering a lot of the guys, right? Yeah. For me, as you can imagine, right? I don't do this every day like you, Gabby. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough. But the position that I'm really interested in learning about more and hearing about more is really the defensive line. Because again, we've got guys that, we've had the guys like Jaleel Phillips and Roche and Rousseau and the list goes on. And right now, nobody knows who the next Rousseau or Phillips is going to be, right? Yeah. We've got the Williams. I call them the Williams brothers, but we got the Williams kids. We've got Harvey. We've got DeAndre Johnson, the transfer. Even Zach McLeod. All these guys that are now trying to, as a collective unit, get that type of production. I don't know if they can. I don't know if they will. The interior of our line, I think, is our strong suit right now on the line with Nesta and with Harrison Hunt and all these kids and John Ford and all these guys. But I'm still curious as to see, who's the next guy that's going to fill that role on the end. Well, I forgot even to mention Leonard Taylor, obviously, but who's gonna, is it Anthony Lucas? Is it Dante Anderson, Daniel Lyons? Is it Bear Alexander? Is he still, an option? Who's gonna come in on the outside? I'm not really familiar with some of those names. Who are some of the guys that maybe Miami is looking at really hard, not only at the end but on the inside as well?
Yeah, it's interesting. So, I mean, just to cross out a couple names, I mean, Bear Alexander is a long shot at best. I think Texas A&M is. I think he's all Texas A&M. I think he's been all Texas A&M. Since he kind of backed out from Georgia, that's where I would sort of expect him to land. So definitely wouldn't want to get people too excited about that name. I mean, Daniel Lyons is a guy that they've been recruiting for a long time. He met Jess Simpson for the first time his 9th grade year when he was at Southridge, when he was teammates with Leonard Taylor. So these guys go way back. I think Daniel Lyons is definitely a name to know on the inside. You can always turn back to an Alton Tarber type. Out of Deerfield Beach, guy that's kind of reshaped his body, maybe more of a one tech that, Miami could potentially give a look to if he's able to work out for them. Jordan Phillips is another kid, I think from the Central Florida, Oakney. I'm not even 100% sure where that is on a map. Probably couldn't point it out. But he just committed to Tennessee. He's another guy that, I could see Miami, continuing to work through and sort of, just continue to recruit and all that stuff. So, and then, I mean, you guys have to think about this too. Shamar Stewart types, the Nigel Kelly types, the Marvin Jones Jr. types. These are all guys that, could potentially kick inside at the next level. It's not just these guys aren't your typical edge rushers where they're a 6'5", 220 pounds. Shamar Stewart is 6'5", 260. He could be, he could easily kick inside at the next level. Marvin Jones Jr. is 6'4", 245. He's a guy that could potentially kick inside too. And then, you have a few, I mean, Nigel Kelly, again, he's probably maybe more of an edge type, but again, with the way football's kind of going, you can see a Nigel Kelly just with what he's able to do, potentially be an inside guy too. So, these are all guys that, you kind of bring them in, you sort of figure it out because, you could either one of those guys, they could be defensive ends in college, but, the NFL futures for a Shamar Stewart, a Marvin Jones Jr., and Nigel Kelly could potentially be interior defensive line. So you recruit those guys, you bring them in, and they could be defensive ends, they could be defensive interior guys. You just kind of mess around with it, sort of the way they did with the Greg Rousseau, where you kind of see him line up inside in some of those NASCAR packages. Even with Jaleel Phillips, sometimes he would line up. You want guys that are able to be versatile and just really just create havoc on the quarterback. And as long as you can do that, I think Miami will be in a good spot.
Well, and you mentioned Shamar Stewart. Obviously, Shamar Stewart, Nigel Kelly, those guys are some of the bigger names. Marvin Jones, of course. How do you feel about that crystal ball from Josh Newberg? for Miami with Shamar Stewart. Maybe you can kind of shed some light on if you think that is legitimate. If I don't want to say it's a troll job because that's kind of crazy. I don't think it's a troll job. I think we've seen enough of Shamar Stewart being a real possibility for the Canes to land it. But how do you feel? How confident do you feel in Shamar Stewart?
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel 7 confidence score high on Shamar Stewart, but the golden rule recruiting is, you follow the visits. I mean, Shamar Stewart's been on Miami's campus 5 different times, throughout the month of June, and that's always a good thing. There's a long way to go. This probably isn't a recruitment that's going to end anytime soon, but I mean, if you're Miami, you have to be feeling good about the fact that he just keep coming back. He came for a couple 7-on-7 tournaments, and it's just like, you didn't have to come. You're not playing in these 7-on-7 tournaments. Like, you saw Miami multiple times already. You didn't have to come. The same thing with early in June. So June 1st, they have the first day out cookout. Shamar Stewart obviously comes. The second day is for the underclassmen. So the 2023s, 2024s, some 2025s, and Shamar Stewart shows up. It's just like little things like that, where it's just like you definitely see those types of things. You kind of follow those patterns, and historically that generally indicates where a guy's leaning and stuff like that. So I understand the crystal ball. There's big boys in play right now. You got Georgia, you got Ohio State, you got potentially Clemson, a Texas A&M type. And so you don't want to hold your breath and just be like, oh yeah, well, he's coming. So, I mean, I think you just got to kind of be patient, work through the process. I think at this point where things stand right now, Miami's in a good spot, but still a long way to go.
Yeah, it's exciting to hear though that it's those guys are on Miami's radar, and you still got these five-star athletes, because at the end of the day, I say this, I think almost every show that we do is, for me, stars matter, man. I mean, tell the Alabamas and the Clemsons and Ohio States the stars don't matter. At the end of the day, I get it. It's about developing these players, but stars matter, Gabby. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think stars matter at every position on the field.
Yeah, I mean, you just turn on the national title game,
that's
and
it.
tell me, point to Alabama's roster and tell me what those guys were rated in high school, and then we can have that discussion. So, I mean, you look at Ohio State too. Look at Ohio State's roster, and even with all that star power, how you still lose. What was it? It was 56-24. So yeah, I mean, you can't say that stars. You can't say stars don't matter. I mean, Alabama is the proof of that. Obviously, Nick Saban is the greatest that's ever existed in the sport of college football, in my opinion. And so it is at a little bit of a different level in terms of how they sort of operate there. But you want to add the premier players, the premier talents to your roster, and you continue to do so until proven otherwise, which it has not been proven otherwise. So you always want to add the best players. 5 stars are I don't know what the percentage is. Someone at 24/7 did the math, or I think it's 300% more likely to be drafted than some other a 3-star. It's something crazy. So it's just it's the stars matter absolutely. You want to add elite talent, and that's how you sort of do it.
I'm going to throw out a couple names at you now, because recently there's a couple guys out there that have put Miami in their top 5. And I know we have a good feeling about a couple of them. The first guy I want to mention is Malik Agbo, the big boy offensive tackle that put us in this top 5. Give me kind of your take on if we land a guy like Malik Agbo here.
Yeah, I mean, I think Miami's in a really good spot with Malik Agbo. I know he had a really good time on his official visit. Miami's been involved there for a while now. I mean, I think Oklahoma could potentially be the stiffest competition. He was there for their Champ U barbecue where Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, all these different types of dudes were there. They have 3 offensive linemen in their class already. They just recently picked up Jake Taylor, top 247 guy out of Bishop Gorman. I think they got another 4-star tackle in the fold too. They got a 3rd offensive lineman in there somewhere. So, Miami has none right now. So I think if you're looking at it from that perspective, I think Miami might be the more intriguing sort of depth chart recruiting option right now. But I do think Oklahoma's a legitimate threat. I think Florida's in there somewhere too. LSU's a school he was planning on officially visiting, kind of canceled it after their offensive line coach got fired. I'm sure there's still a school that he wants to see. I think Arizona State was the other one. I can't imagine anyone committing to Arizona State right now. So, I mean, I think maybe Oklahoma, I would probably fear most of any of those schools, but I think Miami's in a good spot there too.
Nice. Another one that actually just announced his top 5 today was Jaleel Skinner, the tight end, big time tight end. Some of the schools that were put in his top 5. We tend to say, well, they don't produce tight ends. At this point, it doesn't really matter because Alabama was in his top 5. I think who else was in his top 5?
Texas. It was Alabama,
Texas,
Texas, Florida State, Miami,
Florida State.
Clemson.
There you go. Some of those schools don't produce the best tight ends. But what is it about some of the schools that maybe Jaleel Skinner likes, and how do you feel we are? What position do you think we're in with a kid like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Miami's sitting in a pretty good spot. I think it's a big deal that Florida kind of got excluded and Miami stayed in. I think that really shows. I know Florida for some time was kind of viewed as a favorite for Jaleel Skinner. So, I think that says a lot about where Miami sort of stands with him. That Miami sort of made the cut over Florida. Clemson again is Clemson. Alabama is Alabama. You always got to worry about those schools. Florida State's a school that he grew up really liking. Again, I mean, Florida State has some momentum on the trail. I mean, I don't know how much changes once games actually start being played and all that stuff. I'm not trying to throw shade or anything. I just, I'm just curious to see how long that kind of stays, how it's going. So, I think Miami's in an okay spot. I'm not 100% sure about Texas and where they sort of stand and all that. But I mean, I think if you're Miami, you got to be feeling pretty good that you made that cut.
Danny, can we throw shade? So when they go 3-9 this year, right? Jaleel Skinner is going to be like, duh, obviously, right? That's Miami's the move, right? When we go 10-2 or 11-1, right, Danny?
I'm not one to throw shade, but I tend to agree with you. Although you'll probably
we can do it. We can do it. Gabby can't, man. We can do it though. We can throw a little.
Gabby's sitting there quietly. He doesn't want to add anything to the fire, and I don't blame him.
Look, he has mentioned it on the chat. Is it fake momentum? Hell yeah, it's fake momentum, man. They're gonna go 3-9 this year, and then it's a wash. It doesn't even matter anymore.
Gabby is a neutral party in this particular argument.
He's still wearing orange and green, so come on.
Born and raised in Miami, bro. My room once looked a lot like yours does now, Jazz.
Yeah, I went back to I got high schoolish on myself, and I did this. What else am I gonna? I don't use this room for anything else. I might as well do that, right? So
yeah, it looks good.
Thanks. We were talking about this a little, and by the way, we'll get to we'll answer this question first real quick from Mr. HD. Gabby, do you think Chance Williams gets some snaps in the rotation this year?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta hope so, right? I mean, this is a top 100 talent, I think. A guy that will, you battled a lot of SEC programs. A lot of SEC programs were involved throughout this recruitment. I mean, you sort of hope that Chance Williams is a guy that sort of takes that next step. Look, I mean, the year Greg Russo broke out, no one was talking about Greg Russo before the season. You're like, this kid obviously has an intriguing frame, missed a lot of the spring. He had like some back issues or whatever it was. No one knew Greg Russo was going to come in and collect 19.5 tackles for loss, 15.5 sacks. Like, no one was talking about that.
Yeah.
This time last year, we're looking at Jalen Phillips, and we were like, what are we going to get? What are we going to get from Jalen Phillips? He can get another concussion. No one really knew about the injury stuff going on. He had, retired from football. No one expected Jalen Phillips to be a Miami Dolphin, this time last year.
Right.
I mean, you get the feeling, defensive end is Miami's cleanup hitter. Like Miami's always found a way to be productive with the defensive ends, with the pass rush, all that stuff. And, right now we're not talking about a guy like Chance Williams. People are talking about Chance Williams like maybe he's a guy that could take the next step. Same thing with Jafari Harvey, a guy that's flash. Like, can he take the next step? People are sort of looking at DeAndre Johnson as that guy that could potentially, do that. But, you always have to sort of, have that reservation. Like, there's a guy maybe that we're not talking about right now that could maybe blow up this year that, Chance Williams, I feel like is a candidate for that. Jafari Harvey's another candidate for that. So, I wouldn't be surprised to see a Chance Williams, end up, really carving out a role for himself in this defense. We've seen it. I mean, it's happened in consecutive years. So who could really say right now that Chance Williams can't have 10 sacks, and we're talking about him in January as like, oh my gosh, this guy's an All-American. Like, who knows? Yeah. I'm not saying he is, but, I don't think you can completely rule it out at this point.
Real talk there. Absolutely. I think that it's all going to it's all going to depend on their development. So, all right, we're going to come up with a new segment here. It's called Gun to Your Head, Gabby. All right.
Oh, right.
I just thought of it while you were talking.
Right? That's fine, we're rolling with it.
Gun to your head. Simple yes or no, because I know that we're coming up against it here. But gun to your head, Kamari Wilson, yes or no?
No.
Gun to your head, Wesley Basaint, yes or no?
Yes.
Gun to your head, Isaiah Horton.
Yes.
Gun to your head, Jaden Gibson.
No.
Okay, that's all. I just wanted to. Gun to your head, Devon Jackson.
No.
No. Oh man. All right. You haven't given us a gun to your head, Justin Medlock.
I don't know. Honestly, I would probably go no.
No. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
And last one, gun to your head, Traequan Figgins.
Yes, I put in a crystal ball, so I guess I have to.
Yeah, I guess you have to, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, and one more question, because Danny, I want to get your take on this real quick too. 12-team playoff. Does Miami make it in?
Yes, they do.
Gabby.
Wow.
Is it gonna happen? By the way, are we doing it? 12-team.
No, not this year. It's not this year.
Not this
it's
year.
like
Okay,
I think it starts 2023 or something like that. But theoretically, in a 12-team playoff, can Miami finish top 12? Yeah, sure. Let's just say yeah.
Number 12. Gabby thinks number 12.
Yeah.
12.
Sounds great.
We'll be the underdog.
I'm just a caveat here. I absolutely hate the 12-team playoff. So
yeah,
I mean,
not a fan.
I'm not a fan at all, but it's all right. So I mean,
you like it the way it is? You like it the way it is?
Yeah, I don't love it the way it is either, but I don't think 12 is the right move either.
I think 12 is too much, actually. I think
I can talk for like an hour about this, so maybe not the best time.
We should have done this. We should have done the playoff.
One day we'll do it. You might need a little bit more than 30 minutes, but
that's fine.
I have some serious like scorching hot takes that a lot of people probably won't agree with.
Manny, if you're hearing this, Manny, in the background, producer Manny Chang, I don't want to hear anybody say that we're going to be pressed for time the next time we bring Gabby on, because that's what we're going to do. All right. Gabby, man, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man.
Have fun out there. Be safe and keep doing it big, man. You're doing a great job, man. We love it.
Man. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Danny, thank you so much for coming on. We'll see you guys next Wednesday. Make sure you subscribe on the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel. And of course, follow us on at 6 Rings Canes. Jesus, what's going on here? Follow us at 6 Rings Canes on Twitter. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you like it. Give us a thumbs up. And of course, thank you for the support. We're here, part of the 5 Reasons Sports Network and 5 Reasons Sports YouTube and 5 Rings Canes podcast. For Danny Gillette, Jazz Santana, Manny Chang in the background. See you guys later. Go Canes.
See you later. Go Canes.